Sexual feeling and expression are among the most intimate, complex, and profoundly human experiences, woven into the fabric of our lives from the earliest stirrings of curiosity to the deepest bonds of connection. To explore this topic is to venture into a realm where biology, psychology, culture, and personal identity intersect, creating a mosaic of meaning that defies simple categorization. At its core, sexuality is not merely a physical act or a biological imperative but a dynamic force that shapes relationships, self-perception, and even societal norms. To understand it fully, we must embrace its contradictions, celebrate its diversity, and acknowledge the challenges it presents in a world where judgment and misunderstanding often overshadow empathy and acceptance. The journey begins with the recognition that sexual feelings are universal. From adolescence onward, humans grapple with the awakening of desire, a force as natural as hunger or thirst, yet infinitely more tangled in social and moral dimensions. Biologically, these feelings are rooted in the interplay of hormones, neurotransmitters, and neural pathways. Testosterone, estrogen, dopamine, and oxytocin each play roles in shaping arousal, attraction, and attachment. Yet, to reduce sexuality to chemistry alone is to ignore the profound psychological dimensions. Desire is filtered through individual experiences, early crushes, the thrill of flirtation, the ache of unrequited longing. It is shaped by cultural narratives, family values, and personal ethics. A teenager's first kiss, for example, might be framed as a rite of passage in one culture and a taboo in another. These contrasts reveal how deeply societal norms influence even the most private aspects of our lives. Expression, then, becomes the bridge between internal feeling and external reality. How we communicate desire, through words, gestures, art, or physical intimacy, varies wildly across individuals and communities. For some, sexuality is a bold declaration of identity. For others, it remains a guarded secret. This spectrum of expression is complicated by the tension between authenticity and conformity. Many people navigate a world that simultaneously glorifies and shames sexuality. Media bombard us with hypersexualized imagery, yet stigmatize those who deviate from narrow ideals of normalcy. This duality can breed confusion, especially for young people trying to reconcile their inner lives with external expectations. Central to this conversation is the concept of consent, a principle that transforms sexual expression from a potential act of harm to one of mutual respect. Consent is not a checkbox but an ongoing dialogue, requiring clarity, enthusiasm, and the freedom to withdraw at any moment. Its absence, whether through coercion, manipulation, or force, turns intimacy into violation. Teaching consent is not just a legal obligation but a moral imperative, fostering relationships built on trust rather than power. Yet, even in societies that champion consent, its practice is often muddied by miscommunication, societal pressure, and entrenched power dynamics. Addressing these challenges requires more than education. It demands a cultural shift toward valuing autonomy and empathy in every interaction. The diversity of sexual expression is another critical lens through which to view this topic. Human sexuality is not monolithic but a kaleidoscope of orientations, preferences, and identities. The LGBTQ+ community, for instance, has long challenged heteronormative assumptions, advocating for recognition that love and desire transcend binary categories. Their struggles and triumphs highlight a fundamental truth: sexual expression is inseparable from the quest for self-actualization. To deny someone the right to love openly is to deny their humanity. Yet, progress remains uneven. In some parts of the world, same-sex relationships are celebrated. In others, they are criminalized. This global patchwork of acceptance and repression underscores the ongoing fight for equality, a fight rooted in the belief that every individual deserves dignity, regardless of whom they love or how they express the desires. Religion and morality further complicate sexual expression. Many faith traditions offer frameworks for understanding sexuality as sacred or sinful, elevating it to a spiritual plane. For some, celibacy or monogamy becomes a path to enlightenment. For others, religious dogma fosters shame and repression. The tension between doctrine and personal experience can lead to profound inner conflict. A person might feel torn between their faith's teachings and their authentic desires, struggling to reconcile the two. This struggle is not merely theoretical, it can fracture families, communities, and individual psyches. Yet, within many traditions, there are also voices of compassion, reinterpretation, and inclusivity, proving that spirituality and sexual authenticity need not be mutually exclusive. Art and culture serve as both mirrors and molders of sexual expression. Literature, film, music, and visual arts have long explored themes of desire, passion, and taboo, pushing boundaries and provoking thought. From the explicit poetry of Sappho to the gender-bending performances of modern pop stars, artists challenge audiences to confront their assumptions and expand their empathy. At the same time, censorship and moral policing reveal society's discomfort with unbridled expression. The debate over what is obscene versus artistic often reflects deeper anxieties about control, purity, and the fear of destabilizing social hierarchies. Yet, art persists as a testament to sexuality's power to inspire, unsettle, and transform. Technology, too, has irrevocably altered the landscape of sexual feeling and expression. The internet has democratized access to information, connecting people across distances and providing platforms for marginalized voices. Online communities offer support for those exploring their identities, while dating apps redefine how relationships begin. Yet, this digital revolution has a shadow side. Pornography, often criticized for perpetuating unrealistic and harmful stereotypes, shapes expectations and behaviors, particularly among adolescents. Cyber exploitation and non-consensual sharing of intimate images highlight the vulnerabilities inherent in a hyper-connected world. Navigating this duality requires critical thinking, digital literacy, and a renewed emphasis on ethics in the virtual realm. Mental health is another crucial dimension. Sexual feelings and experiences can be sources of profound joy or deep trauma. For survivors of abuse, sexuality may become entangled with fear, shame, or dissociation. Conversely, those who embrace the desires without guilt often report higher self-esteem and relational satisfaction. The field of sex therapy underscores the importance of addressing psychological blocks, whether rooted in past trauma, societal shame, or interpersonal conflict, to foster healthy sexual expression. Destigmatizing conversations about sexual dysfunction, from erectile challenges to low libido, is essential to ensuring individuals seek help without embarrassment. Aging introduces yet another layer to this tapestry. Societal narratives often depict older adults as asexual, dismissing their continued capacity for desire and intimacy. This ageism not only marginalizes seniors but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes. In reality, many older individuals maintain active, fulfilling sexual lives, adapting to physical changes with creativity and resilience. Acknowledging this reality challenges us to view sexuality as a lifelong journey rather than a phase confined to youth. The legal and political realms are inextricably linked to sexual expression. Laws governing age of consent, marriage equality, sex work, and reproductive rights reflect societal values and biases. The criminalization of certain sexual behaviors, while sometimes necessary to protect vulnerable populations, can also be weaponized to oppress minorities. The ongoing global debate over sex work, for instance, pits harm reduction against moral condemnation, often ignoring the agency and voices of those directly affected. Similarly, reproductive rights, deeply tied to bodily autonomy, remain a battleground where ideology clashes with individual freedom. These issues remind us that sexuality is never purely personal. It is political, shaped by power structures that demand scrutiny and reform. Education stands as one of the most potent tools for fostering healthy sexual expression. Comprehensive sex education, rooted in science, inclusivity, and respect, equips young people with the knowledge to make informed choices. It goes beyond anatomy to address consent, communication, emotional health, and the spectrum of human sexuality. Yet, resistance persists. Abstinence-only programs, often driven by ideological agendas, leave gaps in understanding that misinformation from peers or the internet eagerly fills. The consequences are stark. Higher rates of unintended pregnancy, STIs, and sexual violence in regions where education is lacking. Investing in honest, empathetic education is not just pragmatic, it is a declaration that young people deserve the truth. In relationships, sexual expression becomes a dance of vulnerability and trust. Partners negotiate boundaries, explore shared fantasies, and navigate evolving desires. Communication is the bedrock of this process, yet many struggle to articulate their needs or fears. Cultural scripts, such as the expectation that men prioritize performance over intimacy, or that women prioritize their partner's pleasure over their own, can stifle authentic connection. Breaking these patterns requires courage and a willingness to unlearn harmful norms. Healthy relationships thrive when both partners feel safe to express desires without judgment and to listen without defensiveness. The interplay between sexuality and creativity is another fascinating frontier. Many artists, writers, and thinkers have drawn inspiration from erotic energy, channeling it into works that transcend the physical. Freud famously linked creativity to sublimated libido, suggesting that unexpressed desires fuel artistic innovation. Whether or not one subscribes to this theory, it's undeniable that sexuality permeates cultural production. From Frida Kahlo's raw depictions of pain and passion to Prince's genre-defying fusion of sound and sensuality, creativity and sexuality often dance in tandem, each amplifying the other. Finally, we must confront the persistent stigma surrounding open discussions of sexuality. Silence breeds ignorance, and ignorance fuels fear. By fostering open, judgment-free dialogues, in homes, schools, and communities, we dismantle the shame that isolates individuals. This is not a call for indiscriminate permissiveness but for a culture that distinguishes between healthy expression and harm, that celebrates consent and condemns exploitation. It requires humility to acknowledge that our understanding of sexuality is ever evolving, shaped by new research, cultural shifts, and the lived experiences of diverse populations. In closing, sexual feeling and expression are not topics to be tidily summarized but lived realities to be approached with curiosity, respect, and care. They remind us of our shared humanity, the vulnerabilities and strengths that bind us. To embrace this complexity is to affirm the beauty of diversity, the necessity of consent, and the enduring power of love in all its forms. As we continue to navigate this terrain, let us strive for a world where every individual feels empowered to explore their sexuality with dignity, free from fear or judgment, and where expression becomes not a source of division but a celebration of the vast, vibrant spectrum of human experience.